Good afternoon. This is your Tropical Atlantic Marine Weather Briefing for Thursday, March 28th, valid through Tuesday, April 2nd. My name is Cassandra Mora, and I'm a meteorologist with the Tropical Analysis and Forecast Branch at the National Hurricane Center. The main hazard today is an ongoing gale warning in the Atlantic that will continue through this evening. There are southeast gale force winds ahead of a cold front. This is continuing to support an area of 10 to 16-foot seas, mainly north of 25 north and between 52 and 56 west. Taking a look at our surface analysis from this morning, here is that gale warning that I was describing in the previous slide associated with this low pressure system and the dying occluded front. This gale is expected to expire by this evening. Elsewhere, we have a cold front stretching from offshore of the southeast U.S. to the northwest Caribbean Sea. Following this cold front, there are strong winds and rough seas, including areas like the Straits of Florida, the northwest Caribbean, and off northeast Florida. This is going to be our main weather maker throughout the weekend. Taking a look at the 24-hour forecast valid for Friday morning, that cold front now stretches from Bermuda to the Greater Antilles and into the Northwest Caribbean, and following the front are fresh to strong northeast winds in the Southwest Atlantic and mainly fresh winds in the Northwest Caribbean Sea, and seas up to 9 to 14 feet, mainly north of 27 north, and seas of 8 feet or greater are noted offshore the southeastern U.S. and within the Northwest Caribbean Sea. Ahead of the front, we still have that low pressure system hanging around, and there is a very large swath of fresh to strong southeast winds remaining ahead of this front, and this continues to support a very large area of seas above 8 feet and above 10 feet, mainly north of 25 north. By Saturday morning, the cold front has now progressed eastward and stretches from the central Atlantic to near Hispaniola. A large area of fresh to strong northeast winds still exists behind this front, mainly north of about 25 north and east of 70 west. Behind the front, high pressure is filling in, and this is supporting areas of fresh to strong winds in the Windward Passage and in the lee of Cuba. As for seas, they are still elevated with seas of above 8 feet behind the cold front north of the Bahamas, and seas of 12 to 14 feet still north of about 25 to 27 north behind the cold front. The low pressure system has now turned into a trough and still supports an area of fresh to strong winds, mainly north of 25 north and west of 40 west. Seas remain elevated across the area above 8 feet. By Sunday, high pressure now dominates the area. There are still some areas of fresh to strong winds in the central Caribbean Sea, in the lee of Hispaniola and offshore Colombia. This is supporting seas of 8 to 10 feet offshore Colombia. The cold front is now draped across the central Atlantic and winds have died down. However, seas remain elevated of about 8 to 11 feet behind the front and mainly east of 70 west. By Monday, marine conditions are generally beginning to improve across the Atlantic. High pressure is filling in and is dominating the basin. The remnants of the cold front continue to move east, and winds have diminished and seas are continuing to subside. There's still an area of seas above 8 feet behind the cold front, mainly east of 65 west. As for the Gulf of Mexico, return flow is beginning to freshen in the western Gulf of Mexico, and this may elevate seas up to 8 feet. And in the central Caribbean, we have those prevailing strong winds offshore Colombia, and this is going to support seas of 8 to 10 feet offshore Colombia and in the lee of Hispaniola. Looking ahead to Tuesday next week, the weather story remains generally the same, with high pressure dominating the Atlantic. It's possible that another boundary will dip just south of 30 north, supporting an area of fresh to strong winds and elevating seas of 8 to 12 feet in this area, mainly north of 27 north. Taking a look at the Gulf of Mexico, we still have the possibility of fresh to strong winds in the central Gulf of Mexico, and this is going to support elevated seas up to 8 feet. And similar story for the central Caribbean. Expect fresh to strong winds with that tight pressure gradient and seas of 8 to 10 feet. That's all I have for this week's Tropical Atlantic Marine Weather Briefing. In summary, expect conditions across the basin to generally improve throughout the weekend and into early next week. However, the next briefing with updated forecast information will be on Sunday, March 31st, out by 5 p.m. And you can always get the latest graphics and information at hurricanes.gov/marine. Thank you for tuning in.